And the season is definitely going to surprise us. So, according to Ralph's research, the preseason number one team would have made the CFP every season. 7 of those would have earned a bye, which is interesting because it also means that 3 of them wouldn't have. Number 2 in the preseason poll would have made the playoff 8 times, so 2 times they did not. Ralph broke this down in a very interesting way. He basically figured out, here's how, based on what we've seen for 10 years of data, if you want to try to make a more realistic projection of what it's going to look like at the end of this season, here's how you do it. 4 of the top 5 teams. So you take 4 of the teams in the current AP top 25. 4 of the top 5. So Georgia's 1, Ohio State's 2, Oregon's 3, Texas is 4, Alabama's 5. You got to throw one of those out and say, I think these 4 are going to make it. Which I think is kind of tough. Because I look at those and I'm like, I don't know which one of those gets thrown out. I have no clue. I think all of those are going to make it. You know, if you look at my post-spring top 25, I had all of them in. I had them all. I didn't have them all in that order, but that might be my top 5 if I recall correctly. If it's not, there's only one slight difference. So that's the part that makes this tough. Like, you got to pick one of those, and we spent all offseason saying all 5 of those are definitely in. So you got to pick one of those to throw out. 2 teams ranked between 6 and 10. So you can only take 2 of those 5. Well, in the AP poll, that's Ole Miss, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, and Florida State. Well, I go back to my post-spring top 25. The only one of those I don't have in the playoff is Penn State, and they were 1 spot out. I have no idea who to throw out here either. And it's a good challenge to our groupthink, our collective groupthink. Collective groupthink is a little bit redundant, but I digress. But it's a good challenge to our groupthink in the offseason, where we just assume these teams are the good teams, and these teams are the ones that aren't going to make it. So you got to pick 2 teams that are ranked between 6 and 10. 2 teams that are ranked between 11 and 20. Now, I go back to my post-spring top 25. I've got one of those teams in the playoff already in my version of it. I had Tennessee making it because I had them ranked in the top 10. I think I had them in number 10 in my post-spring top 25. So, but I don't know who the other one would be in this situation. So now one team ranked between 21 and 25, which also very interesting. Now, in this particular iteration, with the playoff working this way, if you look at that, you probably say, okay, here's where you can pick your Big 12 champ, or you could pick your Big 12 champ in the next one, because the Big 12 feels so even that it could be one of the 5 ranked Big 12 teams in the preseason poll, or it could be an unranked Big 12 team. So we're going to do this exercise in a second, but there's one more category that Ralph gave us. You have to pick 3 unranked teams. Now, there are no group of 5 teams ranked in the AP top 25 preseason poll. So that's one of them. One of them will be the group of 5 representative, whoever that is. The highest also receiving votes from the group of 5 in the AP poll right now is Boise State. So for them, they have Boise State in there. Let's try this. Let's try this little exercise. We will start with 4 of the top 5. So we're going to take one team out of the top 5. I'm taking out Texas. I don't really have a reason for that. I like all 5 of these. I think all 5 of these teams are going to make the playoff. But the exercise says you got to take one out. So I'm going to take Texas out and say, if we had to come up with a reason, we'll say they lost more than we realized. They had to replace a lot of skill position guys in the transfer portal. Maybe they had injury issues. Remember, CJ Baxter's already out with a preseason injury. So let's just take that. We'll take them out and we'll say Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, and Alabama made it. And I guess we'll have to put them in that order. I got producer River trying to make a graphic on the fly here. So River, let's say those teams are going to be in that order, but we'll just bump Alabama up to number 4, which means that Oregon will be number 5, the number 5 seed. Alabama will be your number 6 seed in the playoffs. So we'll have Georgia and Ohio State getting byes as the SEC champ and Big Ten champ, number 1 and number 2. So we still have to figure out an ACC champ and a Big 12 champ. Those two will be the 3 and the 4 seeds, depending on the order we decide they're in. Next, 2 teams between 6 and 10. Ole Miss, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, Florida State. I actually feel like I can come up with some legitimate reasons why the 3 I can pull out of here didn't make it. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm picking Florida State in here, one, because I think Florida State's going to be really good, and I do think Florida State's going to win the ACC, but I got to have an ACC champ in this thing somewhere. So that's one of the reasons why I'm picking Florida State. I'm also going to pick Ole Miss, and I'll tell you why on that one too. SEC Media Days, Nick Saban, in his first major role as an ESPN commentator, one of the first things he said was he believes Ole Miss has bolstered itself on the line of scrimmage enough this offseason to be competitive with the top teams in the SEC. And that was kind of my big question. Did they get to that level? I trust his opinion more than I trust most people's opinion on that. So I'm gonna take Ole Miss. Notre Dame, we talked about. I think they would have to go 11-1 against this particular schedule to get an at-large. Maybe they don't. Maybe they lose to Texas A&M. Maybe they lose to Florida State. If I've got Florida State in here, they don't have to have beaten Notre Dame to get in. They just need to win the ACC. But we can say they did. Penn State, we can say the offense didn't turn around as much as they think. Michigan, we can say, well, they lost so much from that national title team and just came up short. Willie T, he says, bolstered? What does that word mean? It means improved. It means improved, Willie. It means improved, Coach Prime, who still has not answered the question about the offensive line. Loves his D-line, not answered questions about the O-line. All right. So we have now 6 playoff teams. We've now filled half the bracket. River, that means we've got Ole Miss as the number 6 team and they would be the number 8 seed. No, they'd be the number 7 seed. Sorry, we'd have them just at 5 because we took one out of the top 5. So we'll have Ole Miss as the number 7 seed. We'll have Florida State as the number 3 seed because they're the ACC champ. So we filled through 7, except we've got a hole at 4, which will be the Big 12 champ. And then we've got to figure out who else gets in. So 1 from 11 through 16. I can take the easy way out and say number 12 Utah is your Big 12 champ. But that might not actually be the easy way out because I still got to get 3 unranked teams in this list. So who's that going to be? I'm going to save my Big 12 champ spot for an unranked team. I'm going to save them. And who knows? Maybe I'll throw an at-large team in from one of these. So I get 2 from 11 through 20. Let's see if I can pull this off. So 11 through 20 is Missouri, Utah, LSU, Clemson, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Miami, and Texas A&M. Now, I would probably in real life pick my Big 12 champ from this list. Between Utah, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, they got Arizona down at 21. So I'd probably be picking my Big 12 champ from this list, but I've got to pick 2 from this group. I'm going to pick Tennessee because I had them in my post-spring top 25 actually making the playoff. One more. So do I pick the Big 12 champ or do I pick another at-large? Do I pick Miami as an at-large here? Do I dare? Chicken 1515 says Boomer Sooner. Let's do that one. Because if Oklahoma goes 10-2 against their schedule, they're making the playoff. Let's pick Oklahoma and Tennessee here, who, by the way, play each other. All right. So that would make Tennessee the 8 seed, Oklahoma the 9 seed in the playoff. I'm not even worried about where they're ranked in the playoff rankings anymore because I'm just going to get confused. River is texting me the running tab to make sure we got this right. So I'm picking Tennessee and Oklahoma as my teams from 11 through 20. Now I get one from 21 through 25. So that's Arizona, Kansas, USC, NC State, and Iowa. If I'm doing it this way, then I'm going to do NC State as an at-large coming out of the ACC, a second at-large, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I've said I think Iowa could be a sneaky potential at-large team because of its schedule. Now, again, we don't know what their quarterback situation is going to be, but that one lends itself to the kind of record you're going to need to get in. The defense is still going to be really good. So I'm going to put Iowa in that next spot. So that makes Iowa the 10 seed. Iowa is your 10 seed. So I've got 3 more spots to fill. This is going to be very, very tricky. I've got to pick a Big 12 champ. And I said I was going to use an unranked Big 12 team as your Big 12 champ. So I'm going to go with UCF as the Big 12 champ. And then I've got to pick a group of 5 team. I don't know who in the world to pick for the group of 5 team. I am going to go with Appalachian State. Let's say Appalachian State wins the Sun Belt. Maybe they even beat Clemson. Because remember, I didn't pick Clemson as one of my playoff teams. The AP has them ranked pretty high. Let's say they took a tumble. So I'm going to pick Appalachian State. So your 12 seed is going to be Appalachian State. Your 4 seed is going to be UCF. Now I got to put one more team into the playoff. Oh boy. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Because I would love to have Penn State or Michigan, but that's against the rules of this exercise. So do I pick another Big Ten team? Because right now, I've got 3 Big Ten teams in there. I've got Ohio State, Oregon, and I've got Iowa. So is there another Big Ten team that could make it? Or does a second Big 12 team make it? Does a second ACC team make it? The 2 ACC teams that I could see being at-large teams, Miami and NC State, they're in the preseason poll. I can't pick them based on this exercise. You know what? Remember we had Ari Timken on the show? And he said, watch out for this team. I'm going to say, watch out for this team. I'm going to say West Virginia makes it as an at-large, gets that final at-large spot. Because if I don't have Penn State making it, maybe West Virginia beat them week 1. Maybe that's the non-conference win that's anchoring that schedule. And maybe West Virginia and UCF played a classic Big 12 championship game. And they were both very good teams in the Big 12. Maybe they were one-loss teams going to the Big 12 championship game. And UCF won and West Virginia lost. I mean, can you even imagine? Super Producer River is now putting this graphic together of what this thing would look like. I can't wait to see it because I'm trying to go over in my head what the matchups are. Oh, we got it. We got it. Okay, here we go. Very interesting. Remember how if the AP poll is correct, we'll get the rematch at a different stadium of Michigan and Texas? Same thing here. So in this one, you have Oklahoma going to Neyland Stadium. Remember, Tennessee goes to Norman in September. I believe that game is September 28th. Appalachian State going to Eugene to play Oregon. West Virginia, Alabama, and Tuscaloosa. The bars in Tuscaloosa will be dry. Iowa at Ole Miss would be a heck of a lot of fun as well. Your potential Alabama or West Virginia, Florida State semi. Your potential Ole Miss or Iowa at Ohio State semi. Tennessee or Oklahoma playing against Georgia. And again, like we talk about the 5 seed being advantageous, like the 5 seed going to play UCF. Now, where would let's figure out where the quarterfinals would be. Remember, the old bowl associations do matter still for the next 2 years. So Georgia has to go to the Sugar Bowl. Ohio State has to go to the Rose Bowl. Florida State would be going to the Orange Bowl, but the Orange Bowl is a semi. So Florida State would be in the Peach Bowl. That UCF Oregon game would be in the Fiesta Bowl. That would be very, very interesting. But that may look weird. So that 12 might look really weird, but based on history, we're going to get something like that. There's going to be surprises. And I'm glad because, again, this is a good reminder because we spend 9-10 months talking about all this stuff, about what it's going to look like. And then the first week just blows it all up. So bring on the blowing it all up. Bring it on. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for the weirdness of whatever that playoff is. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples On 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.